Definitions.
Hello, I'm Pam Hoffman, Everyday Spacer.
I'm Jeff Miller, 2049 Outfitters.
At Everyday Spacer, we show regular folks how to personally and directly participate in space exploration, science, and astronomy. We're here on Friday nights at 9 p.m. Pacific Time, 12 midnight Eastern Time, and 4 a.m. on Saturday in London. We're broadcasting live from Thousand Oaks, California. And tonight's episode, we're starting something called Spacer Culture, and we're going to talk about laws in space. We'll be back in 8.3 seconds. We are not lawyers, nor do we play lawyers on TV. Please do not take any of this as any kind of advice whatsoever. Tonight, Jeff kicks off a new series called Spacer Culture, and we may have had a few that are already kind of in that realm, but we're going to call them Spacer Culture now. Jeff's going to delve into laws in space, and this is not to be confused with space law. That is something completely different. Laws in space tonight, what we're doing tonight is a discussion about what may transpire when we live and work and play off-world. What laws will we create for this unique environment? What will we take with us from the laws on Earth? And we want to hear your ideas as well. Actually, Scott had one. I will post that as soon as I'm done with this intro here. And we'll speculate on this topic for one or more episodes of our show. All right, let me get to Scott's comment here, and welcome, Scott. So glad you're here with us. He says, some people have a hard time behaving on a 3-hour flight. I've seen the videos. So I would think once the public has access to long space flights, the laws are going to be really important. Okay, very good. Yeah, I'm going to go with sedation. Maybe.
Anyway, go with what?
Being sedated. Sedate people when they go.
Yeah.
Or if they're frozen on long flights, maybe it'll be a non-issue. Anyway, Jeff, please take it away.
Okay, I think freezing is a little bit farther out in the future than I'm thinking about here.
Okay.
And so we're basically want to run this as a town council type of session.
Cool.
So, pipe up with any ideas that you have, any comments that you have. Now, there is a little bit of a delay here, so you might be commenting on something. We might see your comment while we're talking about something else, but we'll try to go back and address it from the old one.
We'll do our best to connect.
Right. Them. Sometimes you might have to reference what the topic was if it's not totally clear, because like a 2-word comment, we might have trouble placing it with what we're talking about. Yeah. But Scott's point about people having a hard time on a 3-hour flight, I think it's just because people assume that the rules don't apply to them. And
interesting.
And one thought that I had that wasn't in my notes anywhere here is, do we actually make stupidity illegal? Because on Earth, stupid generally kills you or
kill
one
you.
Or well, it can
kill you. It can kill you, but stupid out in space.
Hold my beer, watch this.
Doesn't always though.
Right. But it can.
Odds are a little better when you're.
But in space, stupid can kill a whole lot more people than just you.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and there's a thing called, I like to say goof proof.
Mm-hmm.
If you have an airlock, you absolutely make it so nobody can do anything wrong. Hard to do, but worth it. I think a lot of people say idiot proof. But, yeah. And they're out there. I mean, we already do things like that for various things here on Earth.
Yeah, but you just train bigger idiots.
Oh.
I mean, you make cars with airbags, people get less cautious about running into things because they know they'll survive it.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that's, so instead of a 30-mile-per-hour impact, you've got a 50-mile-per-hour impact because why not?
Yeah, and a lot of people will talk about space is for everyone, and in general, I can agree with that. However, if you're going to take someone who's going to do stupid things just to do stupid things, how do we discourage that if we really want to be open?
Yeah.
Space for all. And
So
to me, there's plenty of things to do that don't involve
Right.
risking everyone's lives for space.
right. And there are a lot of science fiction examples of people who've speculated. And
Yes.
just to be just to set the kind of time frame for this is that I'm thinking of relatively near term where we've
Okay.
gotten into the solar system, but no FTL yet unless someone invents something right away. I mean, I'm thinking essentially our tech plus.
I know a lot of people are waiting for the aliens to come and give us that kind of technology, but I'm not holding my breath.
No. And besides, it'd be better if we do it ourselves anyway.
We'll know how it works. Yeah.
Right. But so so figure asteroid belts, moons of the various planets, that sort of thing.
Yeah, plenty of time. Plenty
Yeah.
of time to get in trouble.
Yeah. So just the categories that we came up with when we were brainstorming is, and this is an odd one for me, gun law. Now, I'm a very gun rights person, right to own guns. However, on a rocket, might not be a good idea. Can you come up with non-kill everyone types of guns?
Yeah,
for a rocket?
projectiles not so good for spaceship skins.
Right. Yeah.
But phasers, I don't know. We have a lot of shows with phasers in them, and
Yeah.
they seem to not do things to bulkheads. And
Well, that's because if you've noticed, they never hit bulkheads
I
because
see. Yes.
they mystically, magically always hit their target,
Okay.
even though there's no sights or any way to aim them.
We had a whole discussion about this before we started.
Another. Okay, you notice that almost no science fiction shows have sights on their guns. I mean, what?
Yeah, I don't know.
Apparently, you're not supposed to use them past 3 meters.
Oh, okay.
Because that's about the distance that you can point something at someone and hit them with it without actually sighting it.
Well, I like your next category too. Are you getting into that? Because I just thought of something.
Yeah.
We don't see those either on shows.
Yeah,
Most of the
police.
Time. Yeah, police.
Now, first, I guess we have to decide: do you actually have a government out there or just communities? Because if you just have communities, who picks the police? I mean, who enforces the laws? If you have laws, is it, hey?
Oh, very good. Okay. Dawn's here. Welcome. And she says, I totally recall violations of gun laws on Mars Station. Are you referring to some specific science fiction show or something?
Or an analog.
Okay.
I mean,
yeah, good question.
That's just amusingly stupid to sneak a gun into that. I mean, okay. It just boggles my mind. But so, with police, I mean, do you have each community designates a sheriff, or does someone?
I kind of like that. Right here, like where we live, we have a sheriff, and that sheriff is voted in, right?
Yeah.
We don't have like hired police for the town.
Appointed by politicians. Yeah. So
we vote for our county sheriff. It's county sheriff here.
Right. Yeah. But, there's that. I mean, quite frankly, in a lot of Wild West, the one with the biggest gun or and the most willingness to use it becomes the sheriff.
Okay.
That's.
I only know stuff I've seen on shows. So.
Right. Yeah. So who are the police? Who prosecutes the criminals? I mean, courts of law. Do you have a court of law? Do you just have the community, or is it like tribal law where you bring them to the chief and the chief decides? The chief hears both sides and decides. Yeah,
communities that get over 130 people tend to have like issues. Tribal. They'll start splitting and they'll have conflicts that aren't going to be readily. Yeah, they're not readily resolved by just a tribal thing. So that's kind of a small You have a small community if you're going to
It,
operate like
it can
that.
get bigger, but you have to be much more aggressive about control.
Oh, Total Recall. Okay.
Oh yeah.
They have a shootout on Mars because they're not allowed to even enter the station. I never figured it out.
Uh,
I can make things.
Black market is black market. I mean, here's the thing, and here's another thing that we don't have a topic for is if you make something illegal, people are going to figure out a way to do it.
Oh yeah.
I mean, just
people get around laws all the time.
I mean,
all the time.
Prohibition created the mafia.
Mm.
I mean,
well, and for me, the prosecution of the law, prosecution of criminals is very important. I mean, well, and then there's the question of what the heck do you do with them? They're taking up space and resources, and then you've lost their labor. If this is a community of people doing things for a specific mission or goal, what happens then? I mean, where do you put them? What do you do with them?
Well, and the biggest part of prosecution of criminals, to me, is making sure that you don't punish the innocent.
Mm.
I mean, to me, that's the biggest reason to have a court.
Okay.
Is to make sure that the innocent aren't.
Unlike a sheriff or a tribal.
Right. I mean, if you have a sheriff and you really trust their judgment, then that's an okay way of.
And that could change at any moment. I mean,
exactly.
If they get killed or if they get voted out, or that could be different.
And quite frankly, if you have a court, you have to trust their judgment, but at least then you have multiple layers.
Yeah.
You have to have the police, the witnesses, the court, all
sometimes
screw
there's a
up.
jury.
Yeah, all screw up.
Yeah, and that's what this country, and I'm talking about the United States, was founded on the idea that there are checks and balances, and the different parts should be able to, compel each other to do the right thing, basically.
Yeah. So, how big do you have to be before you need to do that? That's, something that we should think about, because otherwise it's just going to be a mess. And otherwise we drag Earth laws into there. And that's why I called this laws of space rather than space law, because space law is a defined category here, where there's a whole bunch of attorneys and politicians with nothing better to do than just decide how Earth is going to control people in space. And I think that once people get far enough out and there are enough people out there, that Earth won't have much to do with that.
We have another comment. Thanks, Dawn. Space law is very important. I totally agree. It is a very worthy topic. That's the thing. We don't know much about it. So that it would be great to have a guest. If you know somebody who is involved with space law, and I think it's not just what happens on here on Earth, but I think a lot of people are thinking about moving out and what happens there. We have no power to tell people what they can launch and put into orbit. Oh, interesting point, because I know, and we've Dawn and I have talked about this. What happens when somebody doesn't care and crashes things that belong to other people, other countries?
Well, that's
or bring things down, deorbit them, and make a mess for other people. So
and that's why we have space law, is that each country is responsible to all of the other countries for anything that one of its citizens does.
Is that just space law or space treaties?
Well, that's space treaties that are part of space law.
We could have a whole series of discussions on this with different guests.
And, someone who's qualified for that.
Yeah, we would love to talk to somebody who actually knows what they're talking about.
But I kind of wanted to take the discussion to past that. Once you're out there, Cliff.
Thanks, Cliff, for joining us. And so they will invent RoboCop. Interesting idea, because
I hope not, because RoboCop came about because of massive corruption.
Oh.
And took place in Detroit, and that's a good location for that shit movie. I used to live near Detroit.
Well, and the idea being that that's maybe a little bit more objective and so forth, but of course that would depend on its programming, right?
Yeah. Well,
I don't know.
And that's just it. RoboCop came about as a conflict between the morals of the person that the robot was made out of and the programming that the corporate police put in place.
Right. Yeah.
And
RoboCop
so that was
he was a cop before, but he had died, and they brought him back for this.
Well, they used him as parts
Yeah.
for something, but in any case, so that's, I don't know that we're even talking that level of tech here anyway, and
because we're gonna need laws out there way before we get to that kind of a
right.
a system of a RoboCop type system, whether it be mixed with biology and tech, or whether it's strictly one or the other.
Yeah, and quite frankly, I think RoboCop goes into the dystopian, and well, I don't think that it's going to be utopian. I mean, we're not going to be all Federation socialist hippies.
It's pretty utopian, isn't it?
Socialist hippies.
Yeah, I love it. I actually like RoboCop a lot too, but
it would be
don't
really
know how
nice
realistic.
it would be really nice if that actually worked, but it won't.
Okay.
DS9 was the most realistic of all the Star Trek series, as I thought, because they actually had people using money and so
gambling. Oh, we got another comment. Thanks, Cliff. Not allowed to launch anything nuclear into space. Oh, by treaty. All right. See, because we have launched things with.
Well, we've nuclear power plants.
Nuclear powered vehicles. Yeah. What do they call them? It's a different term now.
RTGs or.
Okay, I don't remember.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Galileo was definitely one. Wasn't it Galileo that got launched with the
Voyager?
Yeah, Voyager.
All of those.
Yeah. Because that's really the only thing that can work out there that far away.
Yeah.
For that long.
Yeah. Then we have property rights. I mean,
that's a big one. I mean, some people have already quote bought.
Yeah, that's
property
all
on the
BS.
Moon,
yeah, that's all BS.
Right, so, but I mean, but could like if somebody got there, could they sit there and go, well, I have this claim. I've thought about this. I mean, I was like, oh, when I first heard about it, and I was pretty young, it was like, oh, what if I got that and hung on to it? Could I claim it? Could I in fact claim that part of? I think it was the moon, in that case.
Well, possession is 9/10 of.
All right.
Yeah.
Because I was aiming for the stars. I mean, since I was in my early 20s.
And since no nation owns any part of the moon.
Yeah, that's a treaty thing, right?
And any real estate that is sold is Brooklyn Bridge real estate.
Okay.
It's basically fiction.
You've been scammed. Dan, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Every society needs to realistically ask itself how many innocents will be wrongfully punished for every guilty one. That ratio should be useful in calibrating law enforcement and judicial systems. Ooh, I like it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and those are things to think about because those are realistic measures, not fantasy measures. And
because people can be wrongfully accused of and punished.
Or even look really guilty.
Well, and things can change. I mean, the laws in 21 states now, it's made it illegal to have marijuana, but there are a lot of people who are still in jail from possession and sales.
They've made it legal to have marijuana, right?
Yeah.
I thought you said illegal.
No, 21 states have made it legal to, and I don't know if it's medical, recreational, or both. I'm sure there's a variety of different categories. Like here in California, I think it's both now. Mm-hmm. Both are legal. And boy, the stuff you can buy, it's very potent.
Right. Yeah.
It's very, very potent.
Okay. Category that we didn't put on here. Drugs in space.
Oh boy.
I think that falls into the line of stupid. I mean, the last thing you need is someone high opening the outside door.
And this is a good day to talk about that because it's 420. And if you need to know about that, I'll leave you a comment.
It was 421.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, yesterday was 420. Yes, you're right. All right. Cliff said they already have AI robots that can do anything. Ooh.
No,
I don't think they can do anything.
They already have AI robots that can do something.
Yes.
Each robot can do something well, but we don't have anything that can do anything well or everything well.
And you know what? Elaborate on that, Cliff, if you would like to. Yeah.
Yeah.
So good thought about. I didn't even think about it when we were putting together our notes for tonight. But you definitely want. And what are we going to find out there? We're going to find some new thing we can plant somewhere that's. We have no idea what it is, and it won't be illegal for the time being. But will it kill people? Will it get people? I don't know.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
And I think we have to really look to science fiction for some of this.
Yeah, and there's a lot of smart people out there who have written about.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
batteries are okay. I just think batteries not included.
That was a fun movie.
Yeah.
So property rights. You know, if you can hold it, I guess it's yours. But do we develop more laws than that? And how do you determine who owns it? Is there going to be a central registry of who owns it?
Mm.
Or is each community going to enforce its own little territory? And what happens if one community wants property that, you know, two communities have a dispute over who owns what?
Yeah.
You know, that's, I mean.
Yeah, I think it's unreasonable to think that we wouldn't want to go out there and claim something like a whole asteroid for the purpose of mining its minerals, to bring back, to sell to whomsoever in the the solar system needs those resources.
And here's another thought, because it comes up in some asteroid mining books that I've read. You send an automated plant out to an asteroid that starts doing the mining and possibly refining it, at least, you know, turning the ore into the mineral itself. And then someone else comes by and grabs it. Grabs the results.
Yeah, I suspect we're gonna have kind of a wild west thing going for a while.
Yeah, I mean,
if you're out there in an asteroid, there's not too much infrastructure that can support your saying, well, I've been robbed.
Right. Yeah. What are you going to do about it? Yeah. So that's why, you know, then that gets into police, that gets into courts, that gets into, you know, a whole bunch of things.
Yeah. Many layers of complication as we grow and expand. It's certainly, we've done that here on Earth. I mean, it's quite a complicated ecosystem.
Yeah.
On this planet, but it's a well developed. I mean, 8 billion people all over the world. Yep. Oh, Scott has come back with, although if they could find a way to sell property on Mars, it might make a good fundraiser for space exploration. I like it.
Yeah, just get a lawyer that doesn't have a lot of ethics and have him start writing up real estate documents for it.
It's a long trip, so how high can it go?
Yeah.
How high can you go? Sorry. Yeah, and I know with with Josh Carlson, we had some. He's been our guest a couple of times, and we've had some conversations with him, you know, offline, and we talked about things like if China gets up there and they have even a small research station, and they claim a big area around the moon, you know, what are we going to do about that? It's like, well, we're doing experiments. You really can't interfere with this, you know, perimeter because we're doing experiments, and there's big questions here. How are we gonna deal with it?
Yeah,
because they could have them such that they take up a lot of room on the moon with very little infrastructure. Really.
Yeah, and then they can, like, if there's a crater with a lot of water in it, just build research stations all around it and basically block everyone else.
Yeah, then it's theirs.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting subject. Property rights.
Then you get into money. What currency do you use? How is it going to be barter? Are you going to have some kind of store of value so that you don't have to carry sheep around to trade?
How about water?
Yeah.
Because out there, that to me that's kind of the lifeblood of everything. All right, Daniel comes in and he says, I would sell naming rights and charge rental fees / location value tax for anything else wanting to be developed. Tax would fund Commonwealth property usage systems. Okay.
Yeah, if you have enough people to actually implement a system like that. I mean, that's the thing, is that the more people you have, the more government you need. Various definitions of the word need. But
yeah, we're kind of the smallest possible government to do the things that government's supposed to do.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, all right. Cliff says, sorry, big delay on the internet. Facebook is the worst. Sorry, man. So was anything that you said? I don't think anything you already told us was too out of the realm of, or that we want to go and connect it back up again. If there is, let us know, Cliff.
Yeah.
Yeah, my personal feeling is no central bank. That was.
Yeah.
That is a big problem.
And you really want money, not currency.
Right.
Because currency is just a fiction written on paper or bits in a computer. So
it's all based on trust, which could go away at any moment. But if you have money like gold, it's fungible. It has there's a whole laundry list of things that create that consist of what money is.
Right. Now, even
like it's what do you remember all of them? That's fungible. It's there's all kinds of different pieces of it.
Yeah.
And currency isn't really that.
Right. And so as long as the money is even paper money, if it's backed by a resource, and pick your resource, you're in space. What resource?
I'm telling you, water to me is going to be the biggie. It's fungible. You could split it up. You can't make more of it necessarily unless you yeah.
Okay.
I see you want to talk about something. What
happens when you're built around an ice asteroid?
Yes.
You've got plenty of water, but you don't have any metal.
Okay.
Is water then a good store of value?
I think so. I mean, you need it for lots of different things.
Right, but it's like being on Earth and having sand be,
okay, all right.
having sand be.
So the value has gone down for that area, but if we need water in other places.
So, but if you're there, so how much water do you have to carry to buy a chocolate bar? You see, that's where you want something that's relatively valuable.
Make 5-gallon water paper bills.
Yeah.
Well, that's how the U.S. dollar was. It was a claim on something like gold or silver, and it was
silver
just
certificate. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just like if you go to the laundry to the dry cleaners and you leave your clothing there, they would give you a claim ticket, and when you came back, you gave them the ticket, so you could turn in your dollar for a dollar's worth of gold and silver once upon a time, until it was disconnected from the gold reserve in the 70s.
Right. And
thank you, President Nixon.
Yeah. And the best part about that is that you could put your silver in one bank, go to another bank in a different state, and get silver out of it for that, because that's the good thing about paper money. Is that you don't have to carry too. Yeah, you don't have to cart it.
It's easier to carry than water. So we got a couple comments. Dawn says, how about oxygen and rocket fuel?
Yeah.
Again, those are very important resources, and you can't necessarily, like the dollar, it has been fractionalized so much, and they just make it now. So it's so every dollar they put into the pool of wealth makes all the other dollars worth less. All right. So yeah, you got a comment about that?
Yeah, you really don't want a currency or a money that you consume.
Okay.
It makes for a very bad.
Oh, okay. That's currency. Why gold and silver are good. Well, except for silver is consumable.
Right.
Gold
at the time it wasn't really.
Right. Yeah, that's come with an industrial.
Right. At the time it was used for jewelry, and all jewelry was a way to display your wealth.
Okay. All right. And Daniel comes back with the kilowatt hour of solar generated electricity would make a good value standard. All right. Okay. I like this. I mean, we could have a whole big discussion on money alone.
Just so people know, my training is economics. So,
right.
We could go economics.
And I just happen to have learned a bunch of stuff in the recent few years.
Yeah. But
I do know something about that one.
Yeah. So
yeah, I don't know about kilowatt hour. It's also kind of consumable, right?
Right. And what happens if no one uses it? It goes away. So yeah, that's a see, that's why some things don't make great money, because it's hard to store them. It's hard to kilowatt hour. You generate it on one station.
How do you carry that around in your pocket to spend? I don't know.
How do you give a kilowatt hour from
Mhm.
one station to another station without
And
moving them to each other with
and
a.
when we were talking about, for a long time there was something that was bugging me about cryptocurrency, and Jeff nailed it for me the one day. He says it just takes too much infrastructure to maintain it. And I think that's the same with a kilowatt hour of solar generated electricity. It takes infrastructure to maintain it. Whereas, a coin in gold or silver, I can carry it in my pocket,
Well,
and I can spend it practically anywhere on earth, even now, even right now.
right. Now, having paper or a coin based on that alleviates some of that, but it still makes it harder to take that paper to another planetary body and spend it because
If they won't honor it,
yeah,
you
because
got nothing. You got
well,
a piece
for
of
one
paper.
thing, they can't get that kilowatt hour.
Mm,
They have all of this paper that represent kilowatt hours. How do they get it back?
Okay.
So, they're,
Yeah, I'm glad you're an econ major, because
yeah, in the ancient times,
I wouldn't have gone there.
there were shipments of gold from one nation to the other in Europe, which was kind of like going from one state to the other here in the U.S. And that was because notes would move to one country and they needed to get the gold to cover those notes.
Okay.
And so, and that was the agreement, is that that's what killed Spain, because they had all this gold. And so they bought everything and
Yeah, they came to the
shipped the gold
Americas,
out.
saw the ink and gold, brought it home.
Yeah. Well, and then they basically bought everything from other nations.
Oh.
So other nations got the skills and innovation for creating things for Spain to buy. And all Spain did was spend the gold, ship it out. Once this gold started running out, Spain was gone.
So they didn't have the gold, and they didn't have the skills, and they didn't have. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's worth paying attention to how that. I mean, even in this country, the United States, we have exported a lot of the things that we used to make, but there's still things that there's no way to export. Like, and it really comes down to the trades. Mike Rowe was on one of the shows we were watching, and he was like, you can't export a plumber to, because a plumber is going to be local to your area to fix your plumbing. All right, we got another comment. Gold will be worthless on Mars, as no use to make PCBs, and integrated chips can't make parts yet, as they would be more important for water and air. I definitely think water and air is important.
Right. And that's just it. I'm not thinking that gold would be a good money holder unless the only value of it would be that it doesn't corrode and it can sit in a vault forever, and you can ship it off to someone. That's the only real value of gold. But they will have to have something. That's the main thought. And just thinking about it, starting the discussion, I think is good, because we really don't want to be bringing our currencies, any of the currencies on Earth, because they're all based on fictions, and they only have value here. And
they become more and more, less and less valuable. I think the dollar is now only a couple of percent what it used to be. That's why you can't buy as much with the dollar anymore. You can't go to the store and spend $20 and get what you could for $20 back in the 70s. All right, Daniel says network connectivity such as terabytes per hour, MTFB, would be another good standard. Information and electricity can both be moved around on demand at near light speed with microwave beams as well.
Except, well, with microwave beams, even a laser spreads over distance.
Yes, that's true.
And
yeah, what's your loss? You have signal loss whenever you transport things like that.
Yeah, you would lose an awful lot of it. That's why, I mean, and these are all good ideas.
Very good ideas.
But how, now kilowatt hours and stuff like that might be good for one community, but they'd still need something to trade with other communities. And that's, I once, being an econ major, I once created the beginnings of a sci-fi story where all of the resources were things that were tradable and were treated as money. But that was, you know, that was a story to basically make a point about something. But so another topic. What is a person?
I don't think it's a company.
Yeah, and we started going with corporations. Can you hold a corporation
Aliens?
accountable for anything?
If we interact with aliens, will they be people?
Right. Right. I don't
Will they
expect
have the same rights?
Yeah, I don't expect to run into aliens, but are
No.
aliens to be considered people?
Worth thinking about, at least at this
Yeah.
point, and
Yeah.
kind of planning for, okay, if this eventuality
Mhm.
occurs, what are we doing about it?
Yeah. And then AI, again, I don't think we're anywhere near an AI that could have the agency to be a person.
Mm.
You have pretty good AI that you can create a task for it and it figures it out. But an AI, I don't think with desires or wants, I don't think is something that we've come anywhere near creating.
There's a really good movie though. It's called Bicentennial Man, and they address that sort of thing and Robin Williams was played the robot character, and he wanted to have rights like a person. He wanted to be a person, and when he was like near death and 200 years old, he actually got granted personhood.
Mm-hmm.
So, where is that line? Where do we draw that line for robots, AI, whatever you want to call it?
Oh.
The United States Transhumanist Party platform allows for 8 levels of sapience or sentience for rights. Ooh, I did not know that.
That makes me twitch though, because you've already built in second class citizens right there. You've created a caste system then.
Yep, that's true.
I mean,
we got enough problems with that.
That just makes me twitch.
All things we're going to want to resolve or try and come to some meeting of the minds at some point.
Yeah. Then another thing is contracts. Kind of this kind of is part of a lot of the other things that we have talked about contracts. One, I think they were a very good idea, but how do you enforce them? That's the and what should be a contract? I think that contracts should be used for a lot of things, but I don't think they should be 10 pages long. I think they should be, a paragraph at most.
Books.
Yeah. I think a contract should be a paragraph.
All right. Cliff comes in and says gold is expensive because people want earrings, etc. But for computers, that's a different story. All right. Okay.
Yeah. Well, and gold was expensive before just because, again, it was a good way of storing value. You can't eat it. Therefore, because the first money that we have records of was a wooden coin called a shekel. If you've ever wondered where that term comes from, a shekel. And what the shekel represented was 1 bushel of grain.
Wow.
So the city lord, mayor, whatever you wanted to call him, had a granary so that in times of famine, they could feed people. For every bushel of grain that you put into that granary, you got a shekel. And you could trade those shekels to other people. And so basically, the common people paid everything in shekels.
Whether the grain was valid or not, still, because that sort of thing can rot. I mean, it expires basically, which isn't really money.
Right. Which is why, but and only the rich people paid in gold or jewels. Because no one would have enough shekels to basically to buy something that could be someone would charge gold for.
Okay.
A house in the city. Yeah, you're never going to have enough shekels for that. But you could have 1 gold coin, which And this was even before gold coins. They just was weight of gold.
Mm.
Um, so contracts, marriage is
Yeah.
is a contract. And then we get into the next one, religion. Should there be any laws about religion? Um, Laws saying that religions, that you shall not infringe on religion. Laws which I would not prefer would be, laws saying that this religion or is allowed or that religion is not allowed. I don't,
Yeah, just tells people they can't do something and they just got to have it.
right. Now, if there's enough people in space and there are enough separate communities, you could possibly have a community that says, maybe everyone in this community is Mormon. You can't own property unless you're Mormon or Muslim or, whatever.
Yeah, then we get into your caste systems again,
Yeah.
I think.
But then if you don't like it there,
go to the next one.
Yeah, go to the next one. I mean, that's if we have enough different communities out there.
Oh, Daniel says, by the way, a bushel of corn 4 dozen years weighs about 42 pounds, not too hard to carry to market in a burlap sack.
Yeah.
Depends on who you are.
Right. But it's also harder to store unless you've got the infrastructure to store it. And that was part of it.
Yeah, it's still things like produce are
right.
Yeah. They can rot. They can go away. They can become null and void, basically.
Of course, this was in Babylon era, that area, which became Persia, which became Iran.
Oh, okay.
So it's a fairly dry area. So grains lasted, a good long time. And they were smart about it. They would do FIFO, first in, first out.
Okay.
So they would load one side of the granary and pull out of the other side. So it was relatively, well done.
Yeah, I still think there's things like rodents that can get at them, and even if in a place that's dry, you're gonna have that kind of thing. You have to protect from that. Or,
you do,
or account for it somehow or something.
Yeah, and a city can go bankrupt, by having, let's say, some idiot burns it down. Well, no one's going to be eating during the dry season. That's what that was. That was what would kill a city.
Yeah.
But, so religions, I really hope that we don't have laws that really deal much with religion other than, whatever, it's a personal choice.
Yeah, I'm good with the separation of church and state. Your religion is your business. So.
Yeah. But
not really any of my business.
That's kind of a U.S. thing. I mean, not most countries don't have that. Then there's age of consent is another thing to think about. I mean, age of consent matters for a lot of things. For one thing,
we have it here: driving a car, voting, drinking, alcohol,
body modification. I mean, age of consent to get a tattoo is the same age you can start drinking, which is not necessarily a good combination. There are some states that say that you cannot give a tattoo to someone who is drunk.
Yeah, and I think most tattoo artists won't do it.
Yeah, but entering into a contract, how old do you have to be to enter into a contract?
I think in this country it's 18, right?
Most of the country. There are some states where the age of majority is 16.
Okay.
But yeah, so that's, now is that going to be decided by community? What kind of is here? They're just bigger communities. Or is that?
Yeah, we vote on stuff as a community, basically.
Yeah. So we're going to need laws about age of consent. Because when do you stop being a ward of someone and start being your own entity? Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, most of us are responsible for our children until they turn 18, and we can be held, accountable for something that they do until they turn 18. And when they're 18, then it's on them. Then they get, if it's, if they've committed some crime, then they get convicted of it instead of the parents. So, yeah.
Yeah. And then, we talked about communities setting their own. And
there's lots of different kinds of systems. I think that's what that's about, really.
And we're assuming that it gets big enough that laws start happening, because when it's relatively small, you have cultural norms. You just basically, that's the way things are done, so that there's not actually a law about it. It just, people will shun you if you do it.
Yeah, and I think about things like laws versus taboos. Like there's never been in this country, and I don't know if it's local or whatever, but there's never been a law for women not to wear a shirt. But it has been a law that men were required to wear a shirt. But we just don't do it because it's a taboo. We got some comments in there. You ready for that?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
Cliff.
Cliff says, Soylent Green was a movie where they recycled human bodies for food. Charlton Heston movie came out at the same time, 2001, 1968. I saw it was not. Yep, I've seen Soylent Green more than once.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
Based off of a short story by Harry Harrison called Make Room, Make Room. And it was basically about overcrowding and food shortages. And so they decided to solve both.
Yeah. Daniel says you have to be at least 16 to get a pilot's license, 14 for balloons or sailplanes. I didn't know about balloons and sailplanes.
Yeah. And with boating, there's no real license for that.
Okay.
I mean, I was piloting a boat when I was old enough to reach everything. I mean,
yes, I've heard about that.
But so, and then another thing about laws, assuming you have people to enforce the law, and assuming you have people to prosecute the laws in courts, what do you do with the offenders?
Yeah.
I mean, do you have the resources to put them in a box and feed them with feed non-productive people?
Yeah, I mean, the earth is kind of like a luxury liner. There's plenty of resources, plenty of room. There's air, there's food, there's water. We can handle.
Or do you do the Cliff Watson solution here and
Soylent Green?
And Soylent Green them, yeah.
Is that a verb now?
Yes.
It sounds like it's a verb now.
I just made it a verb.
Okay.
But kill them and recycle them some other way. I mean, quite frankly, here's one that wasn't on our list. When people die, what do you do with them?
Oh, yeah.
Do you pump them full of chemicals that make them useless to everything, or do you plant them in the in where the plants are and use them as fertilizer?
That's a good idea.
I mean,
for a bunch of reasons. All right, so Cliff has another comment. Tattoos and drinking 18 down here, and driving at 17 to vote 18. And Cliff is in Australia, for those who do not know already.
So you can drive before you can vote, drink, or get tattoos. So theoretically, they're safe.
For an assault vehicle.
They're a safe driver. They're safe driving for a year.
Well, but in like Michigan, Jeff's nephew lives in Michigan, and he's able to drive, and he's like 14 or 15, right?
He's 15 going on 16.
Okay.
He's got a learner's permit. He can drive with an adult in the car.
Okay. All right. But some places, if there's need, like if the parent's disabled or something, a child can drive even earlier.
And there's odd rulings, like at the age of 14, you can drive a tractor on the roads. I mean, that's still on the books in most states.
So is turning in a road for 2 cents is something. Bring it to City Hall for 2 cents.
Yeah, I think that's Massachusetts has.
Yeah,
one of the cities in Massachusetts has that law.
Somewhere like that. A lot of things should be really updated, I think.
Yeah.
But who's got the time for that?
Yeah.
I mean, and then that's another thing. Are we going to? Some things I think are going to require, because we're going to be learning about what the environment's like, especially long term. We don't really have much experience living and working and playing in space for much more than a year. I guess somebody just broke the record, right? With, I don't know, was it 400 days or I don't know. Somebody out there knows about it, I bet. But yeah, we don't have that much experience with it yet. So when we get to be living there for 10, 20, 30 years, we're gonna learn some things. And how do you adjust and change and make it happen? I personally think a good system of checks and balances is important. However, it's still something that can be corrupted. We've definitely seen that here. That's highly unfortunate, but I don't know that there's any way around it, because as soon as you make some kind of rule, somebody is going to sit there and go, oh, but they'll get around it, under it, over it.
Right. And not only that, but there will be some times when whatever rule you create, no matter how well you create the rule, there will be cases where it doesn't really apply well.
Yeah.
I mean, stasis like in Red Dwarf. Yeah. Yeah.
What a great show.
Assuming that works. I mean, assuming that isn't murder. Assuming that isn't a death sentence, because
we don't really know yet.
Right. Well, right now, any type of freezing bursts all the cells in the body. And so you thaw them out and you've got mush man. I mean, that's, there. So how do you fix that? How do you freeze them without doing that?
Frogs can do it.
Yeah.
Some frogs.
Yeah. I just think that's, I think I put that in the same category as FTL.
Oh, jeez. All right. That's interesting. I think that's here too. Well, and then there's like, if you're a minor and the other one is not.
crossing the, So you guys have the same rules as Japan. I just happen to know Japan because I knew people who lived in Japan. But
I don't know that we have a thing for how old you have to be before you're allowed to have sex.
Yeah,
I don't think we like to touch that here. We're very puritanical.
Well, there's a 17 or 18 year dividing line in almost every state. Some like in the deep South or New England, the age is lower. But crossing that line is where you get into trouble. Like someone over that line with someone under the line is what causes trouble.
Yeah, in some places they do enable, and it's usually men marrying girls, like teenage girls can be married to an adult male. Why they would want a girl like that, I don't know, but whole different topic.
Long duration of baby making.
Yeah,
but
maybe. Yeah, but he's not going to be in a good position at some point. There's troubles when men get older with sperm and the things that mutate and stuff. And so I don't know.
Yeah.
Unless they want to pass along, property and wealth and that kind of thing. But
yeah.
All right. So I think kind of the whole idea here is that it's possible, and we like to talk about things you can do, that we could even influence the laws by discussing about these things, thinking about them, sparking thoughts with other people, to at some point, influence what happens, where do we go, what do we do? Because the more we think about things, the more I think we'll be able to come up with solutions when the time comes, when it's important to do so.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much, Jeff. That was really great. Thank you very much for all the comments. This has been just terrific, and really, really appreciate all the ideas. And we can explore this again later if we come up with some more topics. We actually ran through all the topics we wrote down and came up with some other ones that we hadn't written down. So that's a really wonderful part of this.
Yeah, and if there are enough people, we can have a discussion on the economics of stuff up there, but I think that would bore most people. So I haven't really pushed for that, but that and
maybe we get a little more knowledgeable about it too. I know you've got the econ major, but what more could be said about that in a whole different episode? All right, Daniel says, honest property rights in nature must stem from sharing the location value with the community. All right.
But I think realistically, it's going to be, I have it, try to take it away from me. You know, that was the Wild West
Yeah.
method.
Yeah. The 9/10 of the law thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yes, that's why we need laws.
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise,
Oh, because squatters do it. I mean, you go on vacation in certain places, somebody moves into your house while you're gone, and it's their house now.
well, it's not their house. You just can't move them out.
Okay, that makes it
You
their
know.
house, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Although I suppose you have to keep paying on everything, right?
Yes.
The taxes and well, I would turn off all the utilities for sure. Try and force them out. No water, no electric, no heat.
In the communities that have strong squatters' rights, you're not allowed to.
Oh, jeez.
Yes.
Can you imagine paying for all that stuff for someone who moved into your house and basically stole it from you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, then you do pizza, man. That's a different story. All right. If you have any more comments, let us know. Anything else from you?
Nope.
I'm going to talk about some stellar events this week, and we're talking April 21st through April 28th. The 21st, Mercury, that's tonight. Mercury and the moon are in conjunction. Oh, okay. And Uranus and the moon are in conjunction, so all three. And I guess you can see Uranus with a good pair of binoculars. April 22nd, that's tomorrow. It's Earth Day. And it's also the Lyrid meteor shower peak. That's 22nd into the 23rd, so overnight. And basically, you're going to look for these after midnight. They have a date range of the 16th of April to the 30th, so there'll still be some after the 22nd, 23rd. But that is considered the peak. Again, they're going to be really good to see after midnight. They radiate from Lyra, so they kind of appear to be coming from that particular spot. Their peak rate per hour is 10 to 20. The source is the Thatcher 1861L. And in this case, the moon is only 2 to 3 days old. So this is a great time for a meteor shower. Yeah, you had a comment? You had a thought?
It sounds like on average about 3 to 6 per minute.
No, 10 to 20 an hour.
Oh, 10 to 20 an hour.
Yeah, 60 an hour is 1 minute.
No, 3 to 6 hour minutes per asteroid. Yeah.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Even when you go out and look for the 1 a minute, it feels like forever because, of course, now with computers, waiting a full minute for anything feels like forever. Yeah. All right. April 23rd is Venus and the moon are in conjunction. April 25th, Mars and the moon are in conjunction. April 27th is the first quarter moon. And then we're back to April 28th. It's a Friday night show. We have another spacer culture concept. Hang tight to learn more about that. And you can find us Fridays at 9 p.m. Pacific time on the Everyday Spacer YouTube page and the Everyday Spacer Facebook page. YouTube channel, sorry. Also, the moon is at apogee.
You know, whenever I see that, I think the old computer game company.
Apogee?
Yeah.
Okay. Also, the book publisher.
Yeah. I think the computer game company came first, but I'm not positive. Okay.
Probably.
In other events and activities, Space Tourism Conference. I don't know why I said concept, but Space Tourism Conference.
That's okay.
Yeah, right there. We've known them for ages.
Whoops, sorry.
Yep.
Let me get the notes back for you.
And we've just
kind of forgot.
Yeah, realized that.
Forgot. I was
hey,
like,
it's coming up on the 28th from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. It is a live and in-person event, which means that you have to be there. It's at the Renaissance Los Angeles Airport Hotel, which we've gone to many, many conventions at that location. So if you go into the downstairs floor, which is underground, turn off your cell phone. It'll drain your battery. If you spend an hour in there, you won't have any battery left because there's no signal and it's going to constantly ping.
And let me get you that website. I will put it in the chat so I think it makes it clickable so you can actually go right to that website.
Yeah. So if you're in the LA area or plan on getting there really fast
next week,
because it is the 28th. Also, another live event, which means that you have to go there. The Analog Astronaut Conference of 2023 is May 4th through 7th. The location is Biosphere 2 in Arizona, US. And that's $1,000 a person. So if you want to get there and have $1,000 burning a hole in your pocket, you can go do that.
And the other one, the Space Tourism Conference, much less.
Yeah.
All right, so if you or someone you know has done something interesting involving space exploration, science, astronomy, we would love to share our lives. Join us again next Friday, April the 28th, for another Spacer Culture episode. We're going to talk about the Everyday Spacer Week and other holidays we might celebrate off-world. So have a good week. Thank you so much, Daniel and Scott and Cliff and Dawn. And did we miss anybody?
I don't think so. Yeah.
I think we did. Our regulars, thanks so much for being here. You have made this much more interesting than we could have done all by ourselves.
Yeah.
Have a great week, folks. And we'll see you next Friday.
Bye-bye.
Good night.